in Belgium, ready for the 6th race weekend of the DTM season, and we're really excited to be here, that's for sure. And with me is the man who's starting in P3, Lucas Auer. And Luki, at the moment you're third in the championship, but there are only 24 points. You're behind Sheldon Van Der Linder. And Sheldon and also Mirko, your main competitors, are way in the back. So I guess today is your chance to pick up the points, right?
Yes, seems like a good day, but it's a long race. We don't know what the weather is doing, and I think it will be a really tough race.
I think it will be tough, that's for sure, but also they say Spa is unpredictable in regards to the weather. So you're expecting, what are you expecting?
Yeah, we don't know. At the moment, it looks like again rain, that we get hit exactly in the formation lap actually by some rain. So it's so difficult and crucial to get the right decisions in. I think you have to take it lap by lap.
All right, well, thank you so much, Luki. Best of luck for the race. And we're going to go all the way to P1 because the man who's the pole setter is Dennis Olson. And he's still in an interview right now, but let's see if we can grab him just quickly before... Yeah, let's see. He's still talking right now, but fact is at the Nürburgring, he already managed to get 2nd place. And now, of course, starting from pole position, it would be fantastic for him to repeat a podium or maybe even get a victory. So let's see if he's ready out of the interview in just a second. And then we can just try to grab him for a second. Are you ready? Or is he still in an interview? Well, anyway, we'll try to grab him in just a second, but now here's your commentator. So see you just in a little bit.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Chris Hartley here in the commentary box, overlooking what at the moment is a dry-ish circuit at Spa-Francorchamps, but rain could be coming towards the end of the race, and it's very damp offline. There you see the grid, and a first pole position in DTM for Dennis Olson, a first pole position in their first full season for SSR Performance, and a first ever Porsche pole position coming here in the qualifying session earlier on today. And Tommy Preining making it a 1-2 for Porsche just behind, and you've heard from Lucas Auer as well, who's climbed to 3rd in the championship now and will start 3rd in the race. Interesting looking grid with the top 2 in the championship way down the order for this one, and with a lot of work to do. So it's going to be an interesting race. The weather will play its part, and very shortly I think we can go back down on the grid and hear once again from Verena.
So now finally I got Dennis Olson. So Dennis, you're starting in pole position today, and at the Nürburgring you already managed to get a 2nd place, your podium. So what are you going to do today? Do you think maybe you can even grab victory?
You know, we finished 2nd twice now, and definitely this is a good chance to get a win. But first we have to race. The weather is really unstable, and you know, we have really strong competitors around me. So I just have to do my best, and then we see what happens.
But you seem pretty relaxed. Are your nerves all stable and cool?
Maybe it's something to be Norwegian, I don't know. I'm from stone cold Norway, so definitely, you know, keep my nerves down. But when I put the helmet on and jump in the car, for sure the nerves are coming.
All right, well, best of luck. Thank you so much. Here's a commentator.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, that's your pole sitter then, Dennis Olson. He becomes the 9th different pole sitter of DTM 2022, and that's 9 different pole sitters from effectively just 10 qualifying sessions, because, of course, at Nürburgring, with all the fog, one of the qualifying sessions was cancelled. So it has been wide open. We've had 8 different race winners so far this season. There's Sheldon Van Der Linder, who picked up his first podium of the season last time out at the Nürburgring. What a day it was for the Van Der Linders, with a 1-2 finish for the South African brothers. Sheldon, his brother, taking his 3rd win of the season in that first race at the Nürburgring when we eventually got there to move back into the championship lead. Laurens Vanthoor was very quick on Friday in practice in dry conditions. It only rained right at the end of both of the free practice sessions, so they only really had dry running up until what was a wet qualifying session this morning. And there's the reigning champion Maximilian Guts, who's got his best qualifying of the year so far. He's best qualifying since Assen 2021, which was also the 6th event of that season. So pretty much a year since we've seen him as high as the 2nd row of the grid. He's all smiles because he's on good form at the moment. Difficult start to the year for the defending champion, but he's put a real run of results together of late and has started to climb the championship table. He's finished in the points in each of the last 5 races, and he's finished in the top 6 in each of the last 4. Lucas Auer, who's going to be celebrating his 28th birthday tomorrow, is one to watch though, because the 2 ahead of him in the championship are way down the order after what was a tricky, mixed, greasy and wet qualifying session, which was interrupted by a couple of offs, including Sheldon Van Der Linder, who went in the gravel trap at Podium, but was able to recover towards the end. Dev Gore's Team Rosberg out, he went in the gravel trap. And so Sheldon Van Der Linder, the championship leader, starts 22nd. Mirko Bortolotti, who's second in the championship, is back in 20th spot on the grid, which is where we're heading now to hear more from Verena.
Maximilian Bug, so I mean for you it's going to be pretty tough starting from P16. How tough do you think will the race be?
It will be tough for sure, because as we saw all year long, that the BOP is really tight. It's really difficult to overtake other cars, but as we see now, it's still quite a bit damp in first and third sector, so maybe if somebody's going offline or something happens, maybe I can take an advantage.
All right, well, best of luck. Thank you so much. And now we're going to go all the way over to find Sheldon Van Der Linder, who is actually starting in P22. That's pretty far in the back. And he's a leader of the championship. He's 24 points ahead. But however, it's going to be a pretty tricky race for him, that's for sure. And Maximilian, and also it's going to be tough. Let me just see if I see him anywhere, because at the moment I can't see him. It's a bit obviously just before the race. A lot of the drivers still ran out just quickly, but I don't see him yet. So while I wait for him and hopefully still grab him, here's your commentator for the moment.
Thanks very much, Verena. And you heard from Maximilian Bug, who's looking to score his first points of the season. He's had one podium in DTM. He did most of last season. He missed one round. He was only meant to be subbing for Gary Paffett initially for the start of the season, but it turned into a season-long run with Muka Motorsport, who are the only team that run the Paravan Space Drive system, the fly-by-wire steering system on their Mercedes. And he finished on the podium at the end of last season at the Norris Ring. So we'll see what Maximilian can do, and we might see what Sheldon Van Der Linder can do from near the back of the grid. Let's head back then to Verena.
So here's Sheldon Van Der Linder, and obviously in good spirits, just joking around about the banana. But Sheldon, so it's going to be a tough race for you. I mean, that's for sure. You're the leader of the championship, and I know that you said before that at this moment it's not all about the title for you, it's about collecting all the valuable points, so it's going to be so tough from this position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look down on the floor, it's completely wet right now, but we have 6 on the car, so that's obviously a lot of risk you're having to take at the start. Especially in Eau Rouge, it's still wet when I did the outlap over the top, so it's going to be interesting on the first lap. I hope everyone can keep it clean and kind of just do a clean race, because I think it's important for me especially to just get through the first lap and not kind of have any incidents or anything, and just get through cleanly. And then from there on, just going to try and see what the weather does. Obviously, you never know here in Spa. It could literally, like yesterday, change every single second. So we never really know what's going to happen there. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great race for the fans as well. And yeah, hope you guys cross your fingers for me.
Oh, certainly we will. But also, isn't that maybe also good if, I mean, you don't know what the weather's going to bring, so maybe a bit of rain might even do you a favor?
Yeah, absolutely. It could do us a favor, but it didn't do us a very big favor this morning. I have to be honest. So I'm a big fan of the dry right now this weekend, especially. I think our pace is better in the dry, so I'd prefer that it's dry for the whole race. But yeah, we can't control that right now, so we're just going to have to do the best with what we have, obviously, and see where we end up.
All right, Sheldon, well, best of luck for the race. Thank you so much, and we're certainly looking forward to an exciting race. So now, here's your commentator, and enjoy the race.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena, down on the grid. So Sheldon Van Der Linder with his equal worst grid position of the season so far. He was 22nd on the grid for race 1 at the Norris Ring. Unfortunately, as with a lot of people in that first race, he didn't make it to the end of the race. But the potential for mixed weather conditions could well bring us some surprises in this race. It's going to be dry tyres to start with for sure, with the dry line that we've got around the circuit. But offline, and you need to go offline if you want to overtake normally, it is still damp. Go on the grass, go on the painted curbs, you're going to be in trouble on slick tyres. So you're going to have to be a little bit careful. And when do you pit? Do you change your pit stop according to what the weather might do? Because you don't want to pit twice, put your mandatory pit stop in, and then have to come in again later in the race to switch to wet tyres. There's Maximilian Guts with the sticker on the car. He's been going around pasting those stickers all over his teammates' cars, inside and out. So David Schumacher has now got a fan club of Maximilian Guts, who, as I say, is going to be looking for his first podium of the year here, as he comes from what's his best grid of the year so far in 4th position. So a slightly shorter race than normal coming up, 50 minutes plus 1 lap. It's going to be the first race of the weekend here at Spa, and it promises to be a cracker. The town of Spa, situated in the heart of the Ardennes forest, close to Liège, in the east of Belgium. It's famed for its natural springs and mineral water. It's exported worldwide, but it's also one of the country's most popular tourist destinations. It's only got a population of just over 10,500. It's a quiet, picturesque town, but of course the name Spa is synonymous with one other thing. Designed in 1920, using the public roads that connected the nearby towns, is one of the most famous and beloved racetracks in the world. Over 100 years it's evolved, it's been reshaped, but one thing remains true. Spa-Francorchamps is a thrill ride and right at the top of the list of drivers' favourite circuits. Welcome then everybody to DTM and the 6th event of the 2022 season. So we're all set then for the 11th round of 16. There you see the track map. It's just over 7 kilometres long, this circuit, at 4.3 miles, 19 corners. And there the track temperature, pretty steady, 17 degrees. The sun's actually started to break out as I look out of the commentary box window. This circuit, over 100 years old, designed back in 1920. And the track originally was 15 kilometres long, using public roads, and was the fastest road circuit in Europe for a very long time. It's only a couple of decades ago that it was stopped being used as public roads. So the final chicane, nicknamed the bus stop chicane, used to be a bus stop when they weren't racing. These roads still connected the three towns in the surrounding area. There's Tommy Preining then, who was on provisional pole until the dying minutes of the session, just picked to the post by Dennis Olson by just over a tenth of a second. Now remember, Tommy Preining was the driver that got Porsche's first ever win in the DTM when he took victory at the Norris Ring. It was a 1-2 for Porsche that day because Dennis Olson finished second, and it's those two drivers up there again the other way around this time though, with Olson ahead of Preining. There is the current points board, and the 110 point that Sheldon Van Der Linder has is a 21 point advantage over Mirko Bortolotti, but you've got potentially 26 points available in this race should you win, and should you get the fastest lap, the Auto Hero fastest lap award, which you can claim a point for that as long as you finish in the top 10 in the race. But look at Lucas Auer, he's finished in the top 3 in qualifying for the 3rd time this season. He's picked up a point already today because of that, and 3rd on 86 points. Look, he's only 3 points behind Mirko Bortolotti, who failed to score any points in the races at the Nürburgring 2 weeks ago and lost the championship lead after coming together when he was going for the lead late in race 1 with Felipe Fraga, which saw them both tumble down the order, and then coming together with Kelvin van der Linde when he was trying to get himself up to 4th place fairly late on in race 2. But it's still a long way to go in this championship. We've got this weekend 2 races here. We've got in 2 weeks' time the beautiful Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, 2 races there. And then in a month's time, in October, we head to Hockenheim for the season finale. So 6 races still to go. As I've already said, 9 different pole sitters, 8 different race winners. It is wide open this season, and you've only got to string together a couple of wins, a few podiums, and you're right back in the title fight. You have one bad weekend and you can tumble down the order. Spits of rain coming down in the practice session yesterday in free practice too. There were parts of the circuit where it was throwing it down in rain, and other parts of the circuit where there was no rain at all. It's such a big spread, this circuit, the longest track on the calendar, and the weather radar that I saw suggested that it would be largely dry for the first 3 quarters of the race, and if any rain is going to come, it's going to be towards the end of the race, the 50-minute race, from around about 2:15 local time onwards. But trying to predict the weather at Spa is a mug's game because it tends to do its own thing here. It's got its own little microclimate. One thing's for sure, I don't think it's going to be a straightforward race, this. So the drivers now trying to get used to a 3rd different set of conditions. They had dry running for most of Friday, they had wet running this morning, and now they've got sort of dry with damp patches and mixed conditions to try and deal with. And the driver that's going to lead them all there first is going to be that man, Dennis Olson, with his first pole position in the DTM. As he said, comes from Norway, from the east of Norway, a place called Valle he was born in. He's only 26 years of age. He's already won lots of things in his career, though. It's the Porsche Carrera Cup champion in Germany in 2017. He was 2nd in that year's Porsche Super Cup as well. And he's won some big endurance events like the Bathurst 12-hour race, the Kailami 9-hour race he's won as well. He's been an Intercontinental GT Challenge champion, and Here he is, after finishing on the podium last time out, leading the cars around onto the formation lap as we get set for 50 minutes plus 1 lap of racing. And this is our first chance really to see where the damp patches might be. That's the La Source hairpin, the first corner these days around this circuit, which they will take in first gear. Brake nice and early through there, because you need to get on the throttle as soon as you can, early on the power, as you head down past the old pit lane, the old pit garages and the old pit wall, steep downhill and down towards that famous corner, Eau Rouge, down there, and then climbing up. It's almost like, you don't really see it from that angle, but it's almost a wall of concrete when you're at the bottom of Eau Rouge looking up. It's such a steep climb. Over Radion you go, completely blind. You can't see beyond the crest, so there's a sharp change of direction. You suddenly change from going steep downhill to steep uphill, and just about, if you've got the right conditions, maybe not at the moment, but right conditions, right tyres, you can just about take it flat out in these cars, I'm told, but they might not be doing that to start with in this race, given that there's probably less grip than they enjoyed during the free practice sessions yesterday. Then they go up the Kemmel Straight, that massive long straight, which is still an uphill climb, and they head into Le Combe, over 265 kilometres an hour, 6 gear. They brake where the curb start. They go through Le Combe, the right-left sequence. They use lots of curb through there, and they go right through Malmedy, and then they will head down towards Rivage, or Bruxelles as it's been renamed. 4th gear corner right at the top of the circuit. The elevation change here is over 100 metres from the lowest point to the highest point, and from there you can see all the way down, just about the furthest point of the circuit, down across to where I'm based, over on the pit lane overlooking the start-finish line. Then they come out of there, down through the unnamed corner, into this left-hander at Podium, one of the quickest corners on the lap. That's 5th gear, just 1 gear change down to 4th, about 200 kilometres an hour through the middle of the corner. And then they head towards the next sequence of corners at La Fan, a 3rd gear corner, or sequence of corners where you go right, then left. And it all looks pretty dry around that part of the circuit for now, but they'll just be eyeing things up from the cockpit. So let's give you the full grid then. On pole position is Dennis Olson. Second on the grid is Thomas Preining. Then it's Lucas Aron, Maximilian Guts on the 2nd row. Laurens van Tour, who's quickest in the dry and free practice 1 on Friday, is 5th. And Sheldon Van Der Linder is 6th. Kelvin qualified 8th, but 2 drivers have picked up 5-place grid penalties for infringements and accidents that they were deemed to have been the cause of at the Nürburgring. So David Schumacher qualified 7th, his best so far. Maro Engel qualified 6th, but they've both had 5-place grid penalties. And then we've got Felipe Fraga, Nico Muller on the 4th row of the grid, René Rast, the 3-time champion, and Maro Engel with that grid demotion start on the 5th row, 9th and 10th. David Schumacher with a grid demotion as well, starts 11th, with Nick Cassidy in the AlphaTauri, of course, Ferrari alongside for company. That's the 6th row. The 7th row, Arjen Meiney and Ricardo Feller. The 7th row, Lucas Stoltz, the winner at the Nürburgring, and Maximilian Buch. And then we've got 17th and 18th, Marco Wittmann and Esteban Moot, one of the 2 home drivers here this weekend. And the 10th row, Clement Schmidt and Mirko Bortolotti in the number 63 Lamborghini, 2nd in the championship. And 1 row behind him, the championship leader, Sheldon Van Der Linder. Chris Hartley then here, trackside, to talk you through the latest adventure of the DTM as the red lights go out, the race gets underway, and they charge down towards La Source. 2 Porsches absolutely together. Thomas Preining in the red and blue machine trying to get around the outside of Dennis Olson. It's not happening. Olson from pole position holds on to the lead of the race, but watch Lucas out, because he got a good run coming out of La Source, and he's drawn alongside Tommy Preining now. 2, surely that's not going to fit into one through Eau Rouge. Somebody's going to have to back off here, and it's probably not going to be Alan. There's contact and a big tank slapper for Thomas Preining. How he saved that, I'll never know, but it's killed his momentum up the hill, and they're all going to come streaming past him along the Kemmel Straight now. So the number 24 Porsche is going to get sucked back into the pack here, and say they're never going to fit. And Lucas there is not the kind of driver to back off, and Thomas Preining, well, it was the save of the day, that, because by all accounts he should have been off in the barriers. How he saved that, brilliant reactions, but of course he is way down at the top 10 as a result of that, when he was initially going for the lead of the race, of course, at La Source. So that's the big drama. Maximilian Guts goes up to 3rd place. Laurens van Tour climbs to 4th. Kelvin Van Der Linder, who was in the gravel trap in qualifying, brought out the full course yellows. He's in 5th place. And Maro Engel has moved up a few places as well to 6th, which is where he would have started without the grid penalty. And they can see just how damp it is offline. Marco Wittmann going side by side with Ricardo Fella, and the BMW tucks in behind his teammate with the special art livery on this weekend, Esteban Moot, the 19-year-old. The two Volkenhorst drivers together. And then they wind their way through this very long second sector, which runs for about half the lap around Spa. It doesn't end until you get to the exit to Stavolo. Once they come out of Stavolo, that double right-hander, they will go into the very quick forest section, sector 3 at the back of the circuit. It's 4th gear out of Stavolo, flat out, so you're already quick before you go out onto that, won't call it a back straight, because it winds its way through the forest. And they get to Blanchimont, they'll be pushing over 250 kilometres an hour once again. And when they get to the end of the lap, it's hard on the brakes down towards the chicane and another first gear corner. So the leaders come through. Dennis Olson has converted the pole position into a race lead at the end of the first lap of proceedings. Lucas Auer fighting his way through to second. Maximilian Guts in 3rd place. Sheldon Van Der Linder trying to work his way up the order here, trying to draw alongside the BMW of his teammate Philipp Eng. Mirko Bortolotti is still just ahead in the number 63 Lamborghini. So second and first in the championship now, nose to tail, as Sheldon Van Der Linder gets through. So Eng drops behind him, the 20th and 21st. They've not exactly made a great deal of progress here. On board with Sheldon Van Der Linder, and watch this ride through Eau Rouge as he charges down the hill and then climbs up over Radion. So work to do for Bortolotti and Van Der Linder, but there'll be a relief that they've survived that first lap. When you're in the pack like they are on that lap number 1, life can get very difficult. So Thomas Preining dropped to 8th place as a result of that. It's David Schumacher side by side here with Esteban Moot, and Moot has to take over the curbs, get the BMW off the road, drags it back in just in front of the Mercedes of David Schumacher, the number 27 car. He then has to keep an eye on the mirrors because Marco Wittmann is just behind him. So great battle this for 13th place. Marco Wittmann in turn has got Ricardo Fella trying to get back up the inside of him as they go through Rivage and Brussels and down towards the unnamed corner. Still side by side, still damp offline there, look. And there'll be more damp patches towards the end of the lap because they're under tree cover the further in the lap they go, which means the track takes longer to dry out over there than it does over here near the start-finish line. And through they all come. Olson's lead at the end of the first lap was 1.3 seconds. And I wonder if there are going to be some late pit stops here for the mandatory pit stop, so that you can try and do one pit stop if rain does come. You do need to change tyres. Here's a replay of the start then. Good start from Preining. He'd actually got his nose in front at La Source, but he was on the outside line. And then holding it tight on the exit was Lucas Auer. He got on the gas really early, and that was what enabled him to draw alongside Thomas Preining. Rons van Toor was just behind it, and that was some moment from Thomas Preining. The contact with Lucas Auer, oversteer through the corners, and he was at a 90-degree angle going up Eau Rouge on the grass, which, remember, is soaking wet and muddy. And how he held on to that, well, no idea. That is why he's in the DTM, because he's a star driver, and star reactions there, avoiding near disaster. Incident between Lucas Auer and Thomas Preining noted, it says on the screens. The officials will look at it, and there's a bit of rubbing between the 19-year-old Esteban Moot, who's turning 20 next month, and the 20-year-old David Schumacher, two of the young charges in the championship, both looking for the first points of the season, just outside the top 10 at the moment. All good then at the head of the field for Olson and Auer, and Maximilian Guts looking for his first podium of the year in 3rd. Rons van Toor is just about 0.6 of a second behind him in 4th place. And then we've got Kelvin van der Linder trying to fend off Maro Engel. Maro was 0.05 of a second slower than Kelvin on the previous lap, so they're holding station for now. Quickest lap we had on the dry in free practice 2 on Friday was a 2:17, I'm 2 minutes 17. They're not anywhere near that yet. Fastest lap we've had set by Olson is a 2:19.6, so nearly 2 seconds slower than they were on all the tyres on Friday, which tells you that that circuit is not quite fully dry yet. So they've got heavy fuel loads on board as well, and you've got all those damp patches off the racing line as well. And I think the times will start to come down and down and down as the race goes on, so long as there's no rain to come down and mix things up. And Thomas Preining has latched himself onto the back of Nico Mullenhour in the battle for 7th place. The Team Rosberg man who won both races at Spa last time the DTM came here in August 2020, but in the Class 1 era. Oh, he's got young Tommy Preining, the Norris Ring winner, on his tail. And this, a replay of Sheldon Van Der Linder, championship leader, getting very, very close to the left rear corner of his nearest rival in the points. And there was a touch of contact there on the way out of the chicane, but nothing too much to worry the Italian, who for now remains ahead. But they're still way down out of the points in 20th and 21st position respectively. So Dennis Olson coming through the second sector. He was a tiny bit quicker, a few hundredths quicker than Lucas Auer on this lap, and at the start of the lap he was 2/10 quicker. But Auer, I think, has had a good end to the lap. The gap has been chipping away over the last lap and a half. It's just over a second at the interval, and it's down to less than a second now, so a very good final sector, and the best lap of the race so far for Lucas Auer. That's a 2:19.5, which is 3/10 quicker than Dennis Olson, and the gap therefore is down to less than 9/10 of a second now between the SSR Performance Porsche and the firsts of the Mercedes run by Team Winward. His teammate Maximilian Guts just behind in third place, and then another SSR Performance Porsche in fourth. Fantastic shot that, as they whip within a few centimetres of the pit wall on the charge down towards Eau Rouge. This huge straight, which you can see from that angle, is still a steep climb up towards when they eventually break for the first time since La Source at Le Combe. And they're using plenty of curves. There you can see how the gap has just been dwindled over the sectors for the last lap and a half or so by the pursuer Lucas Auer. So this could be an interesting battle for the lead of the race. Dennis Olson looking for his first win in the DTM. Lucas Auer, who is one of the most experienced DTM racers in the field these days, has one win this season. That was in the very first round of the championship, the very sunny Portimao. He's had a couple of podium finishes since then, but he's been a consistent points finisher. 5th and 3rd at the Nürburgring. Not good days for Bortolotti or Rast, moving him ever closer towards the top of the championship table. Well, Preining still hasn't found a way past Muller. There he is, down in 8th place. It'll be bittersweet, that, because he'll be annoyed that he's not in the top 3 still, but I think in retrospect he'll be pretty pleased that he managed to keep it on the road at all, because that was a huge moment. They'll make their way through. You've got to be careful of track limits as well. We get a replay of that big moment for Tommy Preining from a different angle, and great reactions from the other drivers around him to avoid the car as well, which he was trying to recover, and did so, but not without wrestling the steering and not without taking that trip, hair-raising trip across the grass. So Dennis Olson in the Porsche, everything looking neat and stable. He won't mind if it rains. He said the Porsche, we know, is good in wet conditions. The Porsches have good traction out of slow corners as well, like the chicane, first gear, and like the next corner, La Source, first gear, which is why, well, part of the reason why they were so successful at the Norris Ring, the street circuit, a couple of rounds ago. Some gaps come down further still, bit by bit. Lucas Auer edges closer towards Dennis Olson. Luigi trying to use all of his knowledge, all of his experience here to close that gap. Over the top of Radion they go then, out onto the Camel Straight. And is he close enough to attack here? He's the 3rd most experienced driver in the field on his 119th race start in the DTM. Lucas Auer coming up to the relative newcomer, Dennis Olson, who's only having his 11th start in the DTM in this race. Further back, still 20th and 21st, Bortolotti and Sheldon Van Der Linder. Way, way out of the points. They'll be hoping for rain, but actually it's got sunnier now. It's the most sunshine we've seen since before the start of free practice 1. Certainly over here on the start-finish line. That's going to dry the track up further. The lap times, as the fuel load comes down, should get quicker and quicker. Nico Muller has actually edged away now from Thomas Preining, so the 7th place Team Rosberg Audi closing up to the tail of the pink 88 Maro Engel driven Mercedes. Through they come. Still very damp offline on the way into Podium, but it's not affecting their line into the corners really, and it's not the sort of place where you'd have a lunge up the inside generally, so all is good through that part of the course. And through the first sector on this lap, Lucas Auer has taken another 0.2 of a second out of the race leader, so the gap is down now to just over half a second between the pair of them. As we watch Tommy Preining try to fight his way through. Just behind him, you got the first of the Ferraris, Felipe Fraga, the Brazilian. He could possibly have had his second win of the season last time out at the Nürburgring until they're coming together with Bortolotti. Still only had 2 finishes out of 10 races so far this season. Ended up getting disqualified from race 2 for contact at the Nürburgring as well. And a non-start he's had because of his car fire in qualifying. So it's been a torrid season for him. Right there, confirmation that Lucas Auer is flying at the moment with the fastest lap of the race so far, and he's closed the gap still further on this lap to Dennis Olsen. It's not by much, but he's eating away at the advantage. And look at this fantastic super slow-mo of Lucas Auer. Sparks flying from the left corner of his Mercedes. You see just how stiff the chassis is and just how low slung these GT cars are to the tarmac. Right, the pit window is open. It opens between 10 and 40 minutes in the race, and some have elected to come in early. So Nick Cassidy, Lucas Stoltz, race 2 winner at Nürburgring, Ricardo Feller, all into the pits, trying something different. They might as well. They're all in the midfield coming in, and remember that pit lane is a bit wet still as well, so have to be careful on cold tyres coming out of here. But Cassidy's got out ahead of Stoltz. Feller's going to be third of them, and they're the pit stop times. Good stop from Abt, 7.7 seconds, the quickest stop of the 3, but Feller still quite a way behind them. And what these 3 drivers don't want now is for rain to come and them to have to pit again later in the race to wet tyres. So it is a gamble. They'll see if it's one that pays off. They might as well, I suppose, try something different. It's all relatively far down the order, coming from lowly grid positions. So those 3 have pitted. You can have to pit your mandatory stop between the 10th and 40th minute of the race. Everybody has to come in, change all 4 tyres. 6 people working on the car, only 4 people working on the actual tyre change, and no refuelling these days in DTM. At the windscreen of Laurens Vanthoor, I think it's just dirty and greasy and bits of flicked up mud rather than any rain coming down at the moment. And Vanthoor, just behind Maximilian Guts, has just set his personal best first sector, so he's pulled in the Mercedes by a tenth and a half out through that first sector. They go through the second sector, and he's found another half a tenth, so that gap's coming down between third and fourth. Vanthoor has said he wants to improve. He's had his best qualifying of the year so far, starting on the 3rd row of the grid as we get ready for the first of our top 10 to come in and make their pit stops. So could be Tommy Preining then coming in, but with anybody else coming as well. And what's the rain going to do? Still, there's some big clouds up there that look very menacing, isn't there, if you look out towards the forest. And indeed, there are others coming in. So Preining come in. We saw the Team Bernhard ready for him, but he's not going to be the only one, because Maro Engel makes his way in as well, just in front. And there might be others to come in just behind as well. So these 2 relatively close together on track. Can Preining jump past Engel here? They were 6th and 8th when they came in. Looking at around 8 seconds for a good stop here, and Engel's going to get away first by the looks of things. So good stop from Gruppe M. Yeah, very good stop. 8.3 seconds, 1.2 seconds slower for Team Bernhard. So no chance of Preining getting past. They should all come out ahead of the 3 that had already stopped. Cassidy, Stoltz and Feller, these 2. So they come out now of the pit lane exits. And there, sure enough, come Cassidy, then Stoltz, and then Feller into the La Source hairpin. So the first of the pit stoppers, as you'd expect, is at Maro Engel, because he was highest up before they came in. He was 6th. Tommy Preining was 8th, and they're well clear, but of course they've got to get those tyres up to temperature. Lucas Stoltz 5th in the championship, another front runner in the championship with work to do from a lowly grid position. Wasn't a great qualifying for René Rast either, but he did gain 2 places with those grid penalties for David Schumacher and Maro Engel. So started 9th instead of 11th, and he's up to 8th place currently, but of course 2 of the drivers that were in front of him have come in and pitted, so not been a stellar weekend so far for René Rast, who last time he came here to Spa in 2020 got a podium in one of the races, finished 5th in the other on what was a very, very hot day. Back then they were struggling with tyre degradation because it was so hot, so it's a very different Spa this weekend. It's only the 3rd time we've been to Spa with the DTM, as Maro Engel makes his way past Philip Eng, who is not looking at 100% here and gets out of the way, runs wide off the circuit. Very unlucky in race 2 at the Nürburgring, where he looked like he had a car very capable of winning and certainly being on the podium. But he is cruising around, I'm afraid, more frustration in what's been a bit of a roller coaster season for Philipp Eng. Super Sumo replays over the crests. It's another thing. The undulation changes, the weight of the car shifts from front to rear. The drivers have to be very balanced all the time. Philipp Eng's got a warning for track limits, which is automatically generated because he's gone over the curves, but we all know it's because he's just trying to stay out of everybody's way and bring the car back to the pits, I'm afraid. Right, Dennis Olson, having been caught for 2 or 3 laps by Lucas Auer, started to inch back away from him. The gap's out to 1.2 seconds. Mirko Bortolotti was just having a big look at the inside there to try and gain a place on teammate Clement Schmidt for 13th. And more pit stoppers coming, including David Schumacher. And then Kelvin van der Linder is going to get out ahead of him. Felipe Fraga, will he be jumping past David Schumacher's Mercedes? Yes, he will. Another good stop from Abdat with 8.3 seconds for Kelvin van der Linder. David Schumacher, 6.9 seconds he was in for. That's the best one we've seen so far. So great job by the Winward team to bring some of the time back down. So they all come out, and Kelvin van der Linder has become the leading pit stopper. He's come out ahead, only just though, of Maro Engel, and then third of the pit stoppers is Felipe Fraga, but he's got Tommy Preining bearing down upon him here. So this is for third place in terms of the pit stoppers. And Tommy Preining, who was ahead of Felipe Fraga before the pit stops, wants to make sure he gets to the end of the Kemmel straight before the Ferrari. He's going to have to go the outside route. Engel has got past the Abt Sportsline Audi of Kelvin van der Linder. Preining goes through as well. So Engel, the first of the pit stoppers, then van der Linder, then Preining, having got past Fraga. His teammate coming after him now, Nick Cassidy. And there, I'm afraid, it's another retirement for Philipp Eng, his third non-finish of the season. So 4 top sixes this year, including a 4th place finish at Lausitzring, but yet to finish on the podium. So a drama with the car there, forcing our first retirement of the race so far. There the top 2 come through, Olson and Auer. And there, 3rd and 4th, Guts and Vantour. And then you've got Nico Muller 5th now, René Rast 6th, Esteban Moot 7th, Marco Wittmann 8th, Max Boot 9th and Arjun Maini 10th. They've all shifted up because of the drivers ahead of them having made their pit stops pretty early on in the race. And that looked like Lucas Auer heading for the pit. So having lost a bit of ground over the last 2 laps or so, Lukey has opted to come in and try something different. So Dennis Olson on his own now for the time being. Max Guts in the number 1 Mercedes will move up to 2nd. Up to 3rd will come Laurens Vantour. René Rast will move up to 4th place temporarily. So Auer in, Nico Muller has come in the background, and Mirko Bortolotti coming into the pits as well, the driver 2nd in the championship. Oh, bit of a stalled start there. There's a problem with the front left on the Mercedes, and that's going to cost valuable time to Lucas Auer. The slowest pit stop we've had so far, 11.2 seconds really. That cost about 3 seconds or so. And that could have a big effect because before the pit stops, he wasn't that far ahead of 3rd and 4th.
Lucky, cars are coming behind. Cars are coming behind with the hot tires, but they are still far away. They are now in turn 1, so it's all good. You have to push a lot now to cover our loss. Good job so far.
All staying calm on the team radio. No response from Lucas Auer. In fairness, probably 100% concentrated on trying to keep the car on the road on cold tyres up through Eau Rouge. Generates some heat in the tyres by weaving. So he's come out, of course, as the leading pit stopper, well clear of anybody else. Look at this queue forming up there. Nico Muller on cold tyres has slipped back behind Kelvin van der Linder and Tommy Preining. So Preining's gained a place there effectively, was, remember, behind Muller, and then Felipe Fraga has a look at the inside at Malmedy, but the Audi stays just ahead. Nick Cassidy is drawing alongside the Brazilian now, the 2 Ferraris together, and Nick Cassidy down the inside. The New Zealander gains a place there, and the number 37 machine has to take a tight line through Brussels, and Felipe Fraga comes back at him. So free to race by the looks of it, those two. Heart-in-mouth moment for the team, though. We've had enough bad luck this year without the 2 drivers coming together, but that was all under control from Nick, using all of his experience there with a tidy move and trying to get past Felipe for a couple of laps. But remember, he's got slightly older tyres as well. And look at this, Tommy Preining right on the back of Kelvin van der Linder. Here's a replay of the time loss, around about 3 seconds, with that front left issue for Lucas Auer. He's still got out as the leading pit stopper, but how much is it going to cost him in terms of positions? Will he now end up being behind Max Guts and maybe Laurens Van Der. And Dennis Olson, the race leader, has come into the pits. So Olson makes his way down the pit lane. We're about to find out the answer then. So Guts will move into the lead of the race, the reigning champion. Well, I think I'm right in saying it's the first time this season. Second place will be Laurens Van Der. And René Rast, if he stays out, will move up to third position. Esteban Moot, the home hero, will be fourth. 2 Belgians in the top 4 for now, but it's all temporary because of these pit stops being taken fairly early in the race. Good stop, 8.2. Nothing wrong with that from SSR Performance.
So Auer had a mistake in his pit stop, so you will not fight Auer in the outlet.
It's a nice reassuring radio message if you're Dennis Olson, isn't it?
I touched the wall on the pit exit.
Copy that.
Ooh, interesting. Dennis Olson saying I touched the wall on the pit lane. I think he's at pit lane exit. So hopefully that won't cost him anything. He's out and we're down in the pits with Verena.
And I've got Philip Eng with me. Philip, what happened?
Not sure yet. I didn't have any contact. I took it pretty easy in the first few corners and laps. And then I couldn't steer anymore, or there was some issue with the steering. So we need to investigate and understand what happened. But yeah, from where we were, we wouldn't have scored many points today. Of course, it's a shame for the team that we had to retire the car. But yeah, it's a bit of a beep season for me so far.
Hopefully better luck tomorrow, Philip.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, really unlucky, Philip Eng. Her self-censorship was good, though, wasn't it? Warning flag for one driver, which is number 19, wrong finishing for track limits. Do it too often and you get a time penalty. All the time, track limits warnings in practice and qualifying coming at Blanchimont, pretty much all of them. Right, having to put 2 wheels on the damp here, Tommy Preining, just about to squeeze his way past the number 6 Lamborghini of Alessio De Ledo. He does it, though, with not too much drama. Right, replay. Oh, rain coming. So
Okay, copy that. Stay out, stay out.
Sheldon Van Der Linder stays out. If I was Sheldon Van Der Linder, I would stay out as long as possible. Because if they've all got to come in, those that have already pitted again to change tyres, he's going to have a huge advantage. Van Der comes in then. The question is, can they get him out ahead of Lucas Auer, who lost that time in the pit stop? He was only a few seconds behind him before the pit stop happened for Lucas Auer, and he lost at least 3 seconds, Lugie, in that pit stop with the front left sticking to drop him back down off the jacks. So Van Der in. Slick tyres is the answer. He's spitting at the moment. And be hoping the rain doesn't come now and stays off. So his mandatory pit stop about to be completed. That looked pretty decent. That's really good from Van Deur's team, SSR Performance. That's second quickest pit stop we've seen. Half a second quicker than his teammate. So Olson's going to come out. There is Lucas Auer then coming into La Source. He will be in front of Lucas Auer because of Auer's time loss in that pit stop. Lucas is going to get his head down now. He's a proper racer, Lucas Auer, and he's going to close that gap knowing that the Porsche is on cold tyres, and with, of course, a bit of rain coming down, that's going to take longer for Laurens Van Der to get the tyres up to temperature than normal. And already, look, the Mercedes is bearing down upon him at the top. Already on and up the Kemmel straight. He draws alongside, and I don't think Laurens is going to be able to stop him coming through. So Lucas Auer regains effectively track position, but the gap is much closer than it was prior to the pit stop. So the key moment that for Lucas. He had to make sure he got ahead of the Porsche, which he just about did. So we got Maximilian Guts leading the race. He's yet to pit. So true is that of René Rast in second. Esteban Moot is third. Marco Wittmann is fourth. Maximilian Buch is fifth. Arjen Meiney is sixth. Clement Schmidt is seventh. Sheldon Van Der Linder 22nd to 8th. But he hasn't made a pit stop yet. Nor has Mikael Grenier in 9th. Marius Sugg in 10th. Dev Gore in 11th. And Rolf Innerschen in 12th. The top 12 in the race have still got to make their pit stops. Key of those is going to be Maximilian Guts because he's fighting for a podium position. He should be coming out somewhere near Lucas Auer as well. And look at Maro Engel, look in the background, drawing alongside Laurens Van Der now as the Belgium still struggling to get the tyres up to temperature. Mercedes around the outside of Porsche, then the inside line for the left-hand flick, and still side by side they go on board with Laurens Van Der. Right-hander coming up, but the line is covered off and he can't quite get through there either. So fantastic battling going on between them over on the far side of the circuit. And Engel through, Preining reeling them in as well. So Laurens Van Der should start to get the tyres up to temperature now towards the end of this very long 7-kilometre long lap at through Blanchimont. And weaving their way down towards the chicane they come. So Maro Engel going well here so far in this race. And Thomas Preining around the outside of Laurens Vanthoor at the chicane. The young Austrian takes his chance with both hands. Lovely move that. And he gets ahead of Vanthoor as well now. So having started on the front row of the grid, dropped to 8th. He's on for a top 6 finish here as Porsche up the inside of the Lamborghini at La Sorsa. And Dennis Olsen determined not to get held up for a single corner here. Trying to build his advantage now as the virtual race leader, the first of the pit stoppers, albeit he's back in 12th place at the moment. In fact, that was at the inside of Rolf Innichen, wasn't it? He hasn't pitted yet, so that moves him up to 12th place. Innichen's still got to make his pit stop. And there, Preining edging away from Vanthoor. But Vanthoor will have fresher tyres towards the end of the lap, end of the race rather, if he can still use slicks at that point, if the rain stays off. It's a question mark, just under 23 minutes plus 1 lap to go in the race. Sheldon Van Der Linder still hasn't pitted, and I think it's the right call, leave it as late as he can. 8th place at the moment in the Schubert Motorsports BMW, but Bortolotti has pitted. He's back in 25th position currently. Just on a personal best lap though, 2 minutes 19.7. Dev Gore about to be passed here by Dennis Olsen. That's for position on track. So he's ahead of Gore, and he's also got his pit stop out of the way. He's up to 11th place overall now. And the 10 cars ahead of him should all drop behind, including the race leader, Maximilian Guts. And then Lucas Auer dives at the inside of Rolf Innichen and gets the job done in the Mercedes. So through he goes as well. Nicely done that, as we've come to expect from the Austrian. Doesn't take any prisoners. Trying still to win this race, to get his 2nd win of the season. He'll try and dispatch of the Rosberg Audi of Dev Gore as quickly as possible as well. Out through Stavelone, 4th gear, accelerating out towards Blanchimont. Goes the race leader, and this is going to be where Lucas Auer should get past Dev Gore now on the run down towards the chicane at the end of the lap. Into Blanchimont they go. Don't put all the wheels over the curbs. Dev Gore does. You might get track limits warning for that. As long as you keep 2 wheels on the curbs, you're okay for track limits there. And now down the inside on the way into chicane, moves ahead of him as well. And both of them stay out, Gore and Innichen, so they're going to hope for rain as well, I suspect, and a late pit stop, which means if they do have to change to wets, if the rain does come, they're only going to have to pit once. So Dennis Olsen carving his way through the field. René Rast has pitted, so that was from 3rd place. And he's going to be behind Tommy Preining and ahead just of Laurens Vanthoor. As we've got down the inside there on the way into La Source, that was Kelvin van der Linde and Nico Muller going wheel to wheel. Van der Linde was already ahead over the line, but Muller was trying to come back at him around the outside. So there's your race leader. Lovely 11.4 second lead, but he's got to still do this pit stop. He's going to be, no doubt about it, in the fight for a podium position here. He was 3rd, just ahead of Laurens Vanthoor before all the pit stops happened. But he wasn't that far behind Lucas Auer, who we know lost time during his pit stop. So rather than worrying about dropping 3rd, he might be thinking, if I can get this right, if the pit stop is good, if we pit at the right time, 2nd place is a possibility here. The first podium of the 2022 season for the reigning champion. A man from the south of Germany accelerates on then. His last lap was a 2:21.049, which is comparable to everyone round him, but those on newer tyres like Tommy Preining are breaking into the 2:19s now. So how long do you hold on before you start losing too much time in older tyres, which do take a bit of a pounding around here? It's very bumpy in certain sections, as you just saw, particularly on the way down into the chicane at the end of the lap. And then Dev Gore out of the way of Tommy Preining, who's getting ever closer to the tail of Maro Engel. So this is for a potential 5th or 6th place finish here, I would say, between the pair of them, depending on where Maximilian Guts comes out of all of this. René Rast was out ahead of Kelvin van der Linder and Nico Muller, but whether he stayed ahead, I'm not sure. But we're going to find out the answer to the question now, because the race leader is in. Maximilian Guts comes in to make his mandatory pit stop with just over 19 minutes left on the clock. I don't think he'll get out ahead of Dennis Olsen, but he might have a chance of getting out ahead of Lucas Auer. We'd be far enough ahead to keep Lukey at bay, though, because he's going to have those cold tyres, which will hold him up for a lap or so. Right, out he comes. It's a good pit stop, which is going to help from Winward. teammates these days to Lucas Auer, having switched teams, not manufacturers, but teams. And he's going to be right in the mix here. So Olson's going to be out ahead of him, and he's going to get in front of Lucas Auer, who starts flashing the headlights. Get out of the way, he says. He's going to be on cold tyres at Eau Rouge, which is going to be hairy. He's weaving around to try and generate heat in the tyres. Lucas Auer says, I'm coming, whether you like it or not, I'm coming. And the Kemmel Straight, the Mercedes of Lucas Auer, should be able to get past his teammate here and whip around the outside. It's still going to take a little while for Max to get the tyres up to temperature, but of course he's much, much closer than he was prior to that pit stop period. He'll lose a bit more ground here, but effectively he's tucked back into a net third place. Replay here of right, Maro Engel clobbering the side of Rofinischen there. He's tried to go around the outside of him. This has brought Tommy Preining even closer. Trying to get around the outside, turns in, finds a Lamborghini in the way, and a slightly lighter Mercedes and a slightly lighter Lamborghini now. Tommy Preining right behind all of that action, and as a result of that, it looks like Maro has picked up a puncture, left rear puncture, which has ruined what was looking like a rather good race for him. He was absolutely flying after his pit stop, but that one moment has ruined it for him. So he drops back and effectively out of the race now. It's got a long way to get back to the pits as well. It's going to be a torture, that, trying to get that Mercedes back to the pits with effectively 3 wheels. So Tommy Preining here in a good position to get a top 5 finish now. There's Esteban Muth, who we're watching at the moment, as the leader of the race for now. Marco Wittmann, his teammate, behind. So it's a temporary 1-2 for Volkenhorst Motorsport. Still got to make their pit stops. There's the championship leader, Sheldon Van Der Linder. At the moment, not on course to score any points. But never say never. Will the weather play its part? Will the strategy work? He comes through, still trying to weave his way through the order. He's got, this is position, he's got Clement Schmidt just ahead of him. They're 5th and 6th on the road. Esteban Muth has come into the pits now as well. So I'll be promoted to 4th and 5th. You've got Michael Grenier just behind us, yet to make a pit stop as well. So I think understandably those that had lower grid positions are trying something different with a late pit stop here. But for now, although it's not sunny like it was, it's still fairly bright. Some clouds all around us, but nothing that looks too menacing. But it's in the next 10 minutes or so where the radar was saying if the rain is going to come, it's going to come in that last 10 minutes or so of the race. So Clement Schmidt has been a pole sitter here in previous years at the Spa 24 Hours. The Austrian going on, the former Porsche racer, and René Rast and Nico Müller side by side. We've seen this before, haven't we? Battling for 2 years straight for the championship title, which went in both occasions in the end to René Rast, and René keeps his nose in front there as well. And Felipe Fraga now with a better run coming at them. He's got ahead of his teammate Nick Cassidy since we last saw them. Side by side, Felipe trying to go around the outside of Nico Müller, but the big Swiss man keeps him behind and holds onto the position. And then Nick Cassidy, look, gets a better run through the right-left sequence at Le Comte, closes up at Malmedy, and then downhill they will run down towards Rivage. 4th gear down to 2nd. Windscreen wipers still on for Nick Cassidy, but he's had them on for a while now. Can't get them off. I don't think it's actually raining. And no change of position. Lucas Stoltz just behind them as well. Having a struggle here in the race so far. So the leading pit stopper is still Dennis Olson. Lucas Auer is a net 2nd. They're 8th and 9th at the moment, but with everybody in front of them to pit. Max Guts is a net 3rd. Tommy Preining is a net 4th. Laurens Vanthoor has disappeared from the timing screen. So his bad luck continues this season. Laurens Vanthoor out of the running. And still yet to make his way back is Maro Engel. It's been a torturous journey back. Might as well park the car, I think, because he's not going to get any points out of this. Try not to make any further damage to the car. So Marco Wittmann, who's picked up the lead of the race now, whips past him. And there Maro heads for the pit lane. Max Buch and Arjun Maini 2nd and 3rd, nose to tail. And that is Sheldon Van Der Linder coming into the pits. So Van Der Linder in, the championship leader. But this isn't great timing, is it? Because he's got this Mercedes holding him up.
Oh, my God.
This couldn't be worse. Couldn't be worse. What bad luck to just come up to the traffic at that point. It's cost him a couple of seconds out of the pit lane entry. Here's the rear-facing camera from Sheldon Van Der Linder's BMW. Schubert now make the pit stop, change the tyres. So obviously don't think it's going to rain. And of course time is running out. He's got to get the pit stop done. It's only a 50-minute race, so there's It's less than 4 minutes before the pit window closes. He's left it as late as he dares and gets back out with a steady but not great pit stop of 8.7 seconds. And ahead of Marius Zug has also been into the pits. So we've lost Philippe Eng, we've lost recently Laurens Vanthoor, we've just lost Maro Engel as well. So out goes Sheldon Van Der Linder, at least with a clear track ahead of him, but with only slim chance now really of picking up any points. The one good thing for him is that Mirko Bortolotti doesn't look like he's going to get any points either. Not yet. He's back in 17th place, although that might become 16th now with Sheldon having pitted. Marco Wittmann staying out, that's for sure. He leads the race. Arjun Mainy's got ahead of Maximilian Guts, so for second at the moment is the number 36 car, the Indian driver. He was also on the podium at the end of last season at the Norris Ring, and fellow Norris Ring 2021 podium finisher Max Buch, number 18. We heard from on the grid with Verena. They're in third place for now, but they're going to have to come in pretty soon to make their pit stops. Now, replay of Lucas Auer and Max Guts getting oh so close, and there Max Guts getting through, so he's ahead of Lucas Auer now, sent wide there, and it's because he's got a puncture. That's why he went wide, front left puncture for Lucas Auer. So that's another front runner dropping out suddenly, dropping like flies with Engel, Vanthoor and now Auer all in strife. And he's parked it up, I'm afraid. That's exiting Pouon. But even if he gets going again, the points chance have gone. So that's looking like the top three in the championship coming into this race are not going to score any points in today's race. Would you believe that? 12 minutes or so to go. Marco Wittmann comes into the pits. So Max Guts is going to be up to a net second place now behind Dennis Olson, and Tommy Preining, despite the hairy start to the race on that first lap run through Eau Rouge and up towards Radion, he's on for a podium finish here, potentially in third place. Right, in they come then, in they pile. Max Buch, Clement Schmidt, Marco Wittmann and Arjun Mainy all in, and Wittmann out just ahead of Mainy. A double champion stays out ahead of the Indian driver who was on the podium at Hockenheim last weekend, racing the GT Challenge with team boss Hubert Hout as one of his co-drivers for HRT. So out they go, Wittmann ahead of him, and they're just in front of Esteban Mood. This should be interesting. Esteban is going to have a go and get through already on Arjun Mainy, and he's probably going to get past his teammate at the top of Radion as well, which he does. Carried far more speed because his tyres were already up to temperature and he wasn't coming out of the pit lane. So Mood ahead of Wittmann. A pretty good race here, but will it muster any points for him? At the moment, they're outside of the points. Rear-facing camera. Incident under investigation between Rolf Innerschen and Maro Engel, but it's not really going to make any difference because Engel's out, Innerschen's out of the points. But, of course, it could affect their next race if any grid penalties were to be applied for race 2 tomorrow. Right, and there through the unnamed corner, or Speaker's Corner as it's sometimes called. Down towards Pouon then, René Rast. Could he be back in the mix? This is a replay of him down the inside of Kelvin van der Linder for fourth place now this has become. That was on the way into the chicane. Everything happening at once here. Suddenly was turned on its head in this race, except for the race leader, Dennis Olson. It's all changed behind. So Olson leads, Guts is second, Preining third. With that move, Rast has moved up to fourth. Kelvin van der Linder is fifth. Then we've got Nico Muller 6th, Felipe Fraga 7th, Nick Cassidy in 8th, Lucas Stoltz 9th, and David Schumacher, fingers crossed for him, he's on course for his first DTM Championship point at the moment in 10th place, but guess who's behind him in 11th? Mirko Bortolotti. So, could he pick up a championship point, his first since the Norris Ring? If he can do it, how far behind is he? The answer, just over a second, as a forlorn figure of Lucas Auer finally makes his way into the pits with that damaged tyre, front left for him. And we did see one or two tyre issues in practice in the dry conditions because some of the curves are pretty brutal here at Spa. Not saying that was the reason why. It might have been a plethora of reasons. It could have been some debris on the circuit, could have been something else. But the end result is out of the race. Very disappointed with that because he'd been driving a great race, hadn't he? And that gives some cushion now to Dennis Olson, the SSR performance driver. 2.1 seconds clear, but Maximilian Guts just set the best lap of the race last time around with a 2:19.1, which was a second quicker than Dennis Olson. Remember, he's got fresher tyres. He pitted quite a few laps after the race leader. So, race isn't done yet, ladies and gentlemen, because that Mercedes is flying at the moment. There's Tommy Preining in the Porsche in third place. Then there's a big gap back between him and René Rast in fourth position. Sheldon Van Der Linder, Nico Müller still fifth and sixth. Live championship standings. René Rast moves back up to second place because all those around him failing to score points at the moment. Moves ahead of Auer and Bortolotti. Olson look up to fourth place with this win, to follow on from the second place finish he got. So it's all closing up. Sheldon Van Der Linder at the moment, where is he? 17th. It's not looking good for any championship points. He needed the rain, really. He could have done without the rain this morning in qualifying because it didn't work out for him. Sheldon Van Der Linder currently in fifth place with Nico Müller, the quicker of the two at the moment, just inching up towards him. He was 0.6 quicker on the previous lap, so Kelvin's got his work cut out here to try and stay in the top five. Nico Müller and potentially Felipe Fraga coming after him as well. Right, what about the top two? There was a 10th quicker through the first sector for Max Guts, and he was 0.6 quicker through the second sector. So he's quicker on this lap as well, unless he's had a problem in the final sector. That gap is going to come down to about a second, I think, between them when they cross the line. So through they go, first and second. 7 minutes plus 1 lap to go. And Dennis Olson does a 2:23, a 2:19.4 for Max Guts. He is almost a second quicker on that lap as well. So Dennis Olson will start to get a bit edgy now. The Norwegian will see the bright lights of that number one Team Winward Racing Mercedes getting bigger and bigger and more imposing in the mirrors. Flies over the top of Radion. Hasn't finished on the podium all year, hasn't won a race since that dramatic finale at the Norris Ring in 2021. It's at his best grid for basically a year, and suddenly he smells the chance of a race victory. And he's out of the top 10 of the championship coming into this. But we've seen a win and a podium. Suddenly you fly up the order. He's had this string of consistent top 6 finishes of late as well. So race very much on. Right, let's head back down into the pit lane now and get some news from Verena.
I'm now here with Lukas Auer. Lukas, the race was looking so good for you, and then all of a sudden it ended. What happened to the car? What happened, all in all?
I don't know, the tire didn't survive. I don't know why. It's a really big hit. No, I just went through Rouge and the tire just went. I was actually lucky to not have a big shunt.
All right, so just bad luck?
Don't know, we have to analyze.
All right.
But normally in motorsport, it's not so much bad luck involved.
All right.
Normally you make your own luck.
All right, Lukas, thank you very much, and hopefully tomorrow better luck. Thank you so much, Luki. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena. So poor Lukas, hopefully have a better race tomorrow on his birthday. But it was looking good for him, wasn't it? And he got that second or maybe a third place finish. He'd have been right up there in the championship fight, wouldn't he? As it is, he's going to drop out of the top 3 in the points as it stands. And René Rast will move up into the top 3. Sheldon Van Der Linder back in 16th place. He's gained 1, but only the top 10 score in the race, of course, as well. Bortolotti still 11th, but he's closing the gap. And, well, David Schumacher is 9th now, so he's on course for 2 championship points. Lucas Stoltz has come into 10th place. Bortolotti is 11th. He needs to get 1 more position to get 1 championship point, which will still leave him 3rd in the standings behind Sheldon Van Der Linder and René Rast. But 1 point, you never know, at the end of the season, we had 3 points between the top 2 at the end of 2021. 1 point could prove to be incredibly valuable. I'm sure if Bortolotti gets a chance, he's going to go for it. He's going to have to. There's no point really finishing in 11th place. He might as well go for it. Windscreen wipers coming on. 1 or 2 spots of water, of rain on the camera lenses look appearing. So it's kind of right on cue with what the radar said. The last 5 or 10 minutes of the race, rain, and it's coming down here on the start-finish straight. Looking out of the commentary box window, it's coming down pretty hard. So this is going to be tricky conditions. Surely they're not going to come in and pit now, just going to have to try and get to the end of the race, but it is going to be like driving on ice. Look at that, Wittmann and Moot going side by side as well, and Wittmann through, but it is really pouring down on this side of the circuit. It might not be on the other side of the circuit, but it's coming. Still a dry line everywhere. Through the camera, it looks dry still at Kemmel, but look, this is the pit wall. This is just in front of where I am, and it is raining pretty hard here. Tense moments. Wet tyres are being readied by Team Bernhard, potentially for Tommy Preining in third place. You lose so much time on slicks on a damp track, but of course you lose a lot of time when you come in and change tyres, so it's going to be... Somebody's going to have to make a decision here, and it could leave the door open for drivers further back to pounce here and get a late surprise. 3.5 minutes left on the clock, plus 1 lap. And Steph Gore's come into the pits, so let's see what he did, but I wouldn't be surprised if he'd thrown some wet tyres on. So he makes his second pit stop. I'm pretty sure he might as well gamble for it and put wets on. That's what my guess would be. But he's a long way down the order. So if you're in the mix for a podium here, you kind of got to do what everybody else does around you. But Dennis Olsen, of course, has to make that decision for himself and the team. He can't follow in somebody else. But if you're Tommy Preining, you can. You can make a decision based on what the 2 cars ahead of you do. But Guts is getting quicker and closer all the time here. The Mercedes closing up, but he struggles to get the car turned in at the end of the chicane because it's wet over here. Even though it doesn't look it through the camera, it's coming down, and he struggles to get the power down on the Mercedes. So Dennis Olsen pulls right away from him as he comes over the start-finish line. 2 minutes 35 seconds left on the clock. So they're lapping 2:22s at the moment. So it depends how slow the lap is as to how many more laps we're going to get. If they keep up this pace, Dennis Olsen will get back to the start-finish line with about 6 seconds left on the clock. Then he'll have to do that lap plus the 1 lap added on. But if this is a much slower lap because of the rain, he might not get back with more than a lap time to go. So depending on the speed of this lap, it's either going to be 2 or 3 laps to go. If they go sort of 6 seconds slower than they have been suddenly, then this will be the penultimate lap of the race. But it's going to be tight, and it could make a major difference at the end of the race. So Max Guts, who had been closing all the time, trying to recover from that slip at the chicane, struggled to get it turned in, struggled to get on the power coming out. Look at this, Marco Wittmann, Arjun Maidi, Ricardo Feller battling away for 12th, 11th and 12th places. Esteban Moot, Sheldon Van Der Linder here, closing in, trying to get something out of this race, trying to get a championship point. Bortolotti is in the points now. He's in 10th place. He's got 1 championship point headed his way. Look at this. 3 abreast. Sheldon Van Der Linder down the inside of Arjun Maidi. Ricardo Feller around the outside. Feller gets there first. But they're both past the Indian driver. And now Sheldon Van Der Linder, who you're on board with, has got the inside line through Malmedy. And the South African charges through, taking no prisoners. And Arjun Maidi, who got on the gas quicker than Ricardo Feller, will have the inside line now for Brussels. And the Mercedes gains one of those places back. And Ricardo Feller forward 1, backwards 2. And it's all because they've just got no idea how much grip is available until they get there. Looks pretty sunny over on that side of the circuit. It's definitely not sunny on our side of the circuit. The rain continues to fall. It is bright, but it is definitely raining, and relatively heavily. Replay then of La Source, and this is what started it all off, really. Ricardo Feller on the back foot after Marco Wittmann tried to come around the outside of him. Bit of contact between the two of them. And then it all kicked off on the Kemmel Straight. Fantastic racing. Right, Dennis Olsen leading the race by 1.1 seconds, but Guts is coming again. 0.3 quicker through the second sector. Oh, he just can't get the Mercedes turned in, though, can he, at the chicane? The Porsche seems to be able to handle better there, and he loses a ton of time as he accelerates up through the gears, coming out of the chicane once more. Now over the line with 10 seconds to go goes Dennis Olsen, so he's going to have to do this lap, then plus 1 more, so it will be 2 laps to go. The lap time is a 2:24, so it was slower, but it was only 2 seconds slower than they had been going. They tippy-toe their way around La Source. None of them are going to come in and go for wet tyres now. They're just going to have to get the cars home, but it's going to be pretty treacherous conditions to be able to do that. 2 minutes 22 for Max Buch. He's the quickest man on the track last time around, so Max Buch, watch for him in the number 18 Mercedes. He's 16th. He's closed right up to that battle between Wittmann, Moot, Van Der Linder and Maini. much quicker than anybody else in those conditions, like a couple of seconds quicker than the leaders even, as David Schumacher about to lose a place to Nick Cassidy. That is for 8th place overall, so Nick using all of his experience. Schumacher has got Bortolotti coming up to him now as well then for 9th place. If he loses that, he'll still be on for his first championship point in DTM. And Bortolotti wants to get as much out of this as he can. He's on the outside line here at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Bortolotti is going to come through, and that will be 9th place. So 2 championship points for Bortolotti. 2 more than Sheldon Van Der Linder, but less points than René Rast, who's moved ahead of him in the championship table. But all helpful points. Here they go, Esteban Moot and Lucas Stoltz, and then Sheldon Van Der Linder. BMW handling well, he's able to hold the inside line here. Stoltz just ahead of Moot, down through the left-hander. Sheldon Van Der Linder is over our shoulder somewhere, just behind the onboard camera for the young Belgian. Is he going to have a go at the inside on the way into Pouon? He is. He's going to have a go here, and Sheldon Van Der Linder gets ahead of the BMW and gets another place. That puts him 13th, almost in the points. 3 places to gain to get himself into the points, but only a lap and a half now remaining in the race. Replay of the move from Sheldon's point of view, and he's got that car handling nicely in these conditions. Beautiful driving up the inside into Pouon and ahead of Esteban Moot for the championship leader. Dennis Olson. What a win this is going to be. You always remember your first win in the championship, but he's had to work very, very hard for this as he comes through to start the final lap of the race. 2nd place, Max Guts, looking for his first win of the season. 1.4 seconds he's got to try and make up on this final lap of the race. Tommy Preining is a distant 3rd now, but he's a good 8.3 seconds clear of René Rast in 4th place. Kelvin van der Linder has still got Nico Muller breathing down his neck. And you've got Nick Cassidy, 8th, Mirko Bortolotti, 9th, absolutely nose to tail as they go through the start-finish line as well. So one more time over the crest at Radion, onto the Kemmel Straight. Dennis Olson looking for his first win, and SSR Performance's first win in the DTM, as Sheldon Van Der Linder whips around the outside of Lucas Stoltz here, and the BMW goes through and gains another place. That's 12th. Needs to get past Wittmann and Schumacher to get a championship point, as Bortolotti goes wheel to wheel here with Nick Cassidy. Hold your breath, can't get through there. Can he get through on the Kemmel Straight now? Schumacher and Wittmann just behind. These cars battling for 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th. Bortolotti has to put the pass behind him, has to go for the moves here and get as many points as he can. He's going to try to go around the outside of the Ferrari. Nick Cassidy's got the inside line as they make their way into Le Combe. He's through. Bortolotti gains a place, and Wittmann comes after Cassidy now as well. Tries to stab it up the inside. All 4 wheels on the curb, almost into the gravel trap. The BMW can't find a way past the Ferrari, but Bortolotti got the job done. 8th place.
No rain on start finish.
Correct. It has stopped raining pretty much here. 1 or 2 spits of rain.
Still slippery.
It's nice to get the update, isn't it? Because the driver will want to know just how much grip to expect when he gets to that final chicane and that final acceleration zone out of the corner. Clement Schmidt has come into the pits just beneath the commentary box, so he's a late retiree. Windscreen wipers on, but the rain has eased. Stressful end to the race, though, for Dennis Olson. Max Guts getting ever closer, 9/10 of a second behind now, as he pulls a bit more time on him through the 2nd sector, but he's almost home and dry now. Almost there. Bortolotti getting some points out of this race. Will drop behind René Rast, but it's all about Dennis Olson this race. He's got to turn right, he's got to turn left. The checkered flag awaits, and Dennis Olson and SSR Performance get their first win in the DTM.
Yes, boys!
Congrats, dude. Very good job. Very good job. Thank you for this.
Great scenes.
Dennis, it's Mario speaking. Congrats to your first victory in the DTM. Nice job, nice job. Thank you for that. Enjoy the lap.
Oh, fantastic. That was Mario Schubauer, the team principal on the radio from SSR Performance, congratulating his man. Look at them ploughing across the line. Oh, Schumacher just ahead of Van Der Linder as they cross the line, but they're both out of the points in 11th and 12th. So poor David Schumacher losing a few places on that last couple of laps, dropping out of the points. So it was, in the end, Bortolotti 8th, Wittmann 9th, and Cassidy got the last championship point in 10th place. What a race we've been treated to. And that's 9 different winners this season now. 9 different winners from 11 races. Only Sheldon Van Der Linder has won more than one race, and he's won 3 to be fair. But no points for him today. It was a fine effort though. He'd have loved another couple of laps in that race, I reckon, because Sheldon was coming for the points. Wasn't quite to be. Bortolotti from 20th on the grid will be delighted to get 8th place. And the Auto Hero fastest lap of the race bonus point goes to Max Guts. He didn't quite get the win, but he has got his first podium of 2022. That is 6 races on the bounce now in the points and 5 races on the bounce that he has finished in the top 6. So he'll pick up the 18 points for second, plus another point for the team for that fastest lap. And Team Winwood very much involved in the team championship battle as well. Schubert Motorsport lead the team's championship on 149 points coming into this race, ahead of Ab Sportsline, and then Team Winwood in 3rd place. Will have closed the gap now at the top of the table. Dennis Olson then, a spectacular winner in very, very difficult circumstances of that final 10 minutes in particular. He gets the win, didn't put a wheel wrong, and drove beautifully. And this is the moment that he became a DTM race winner, and SSR Performance became DTM race winners as well. From pole position, Dennis Olson wins, takes victory in round 11 of the championship. 2nd place to Max Guts, 3rd to Tommy Preining, who's on fire, isn't he, at the moment? And well, what a 3rd place that is as well. And he can owe that 3rd place to his brilliant reactions when the car was sideways on lap 1, heading out of Eau Rouge and up towards Radion. It was quite a remarkable catch, that. René Rast, 4th place. Useful points at the top of the championship table. Kelvin van der Linde and Nico Muller just behind. So their confirmation of the top 6. Felipe Fraga gets his 3rd points finish, his 3rd finish of the season. It's not a podium this time. It's not a win, but it is a handy 7th place finish. Bortolotti came through to finish in 8th place and pick up 4 championship points for that. Marco Wittmann battling 9th place for him, and Nick Cassidy finishes in 10th. David Schumacher, who was running in 8th place with a couple of laps to go, would just miss out on the points in 11th. Sheldon Van Der Linder from 22nd on the grid to 12th. Good effort, but not quite enough laps for him in the end. Esteban Moot 13th, Arjun Maini 14th, 15th Lucas Stoltz, 15th Max Buch, Marius Zug, Ricardo Feller, Rolf Inischen and Alessio De Leda rounded out the top 20, and there were finishes for Dev Gorn. Although he finished in the pit lane, classified as a finisher in 22nd was Clement Schmidt, with Grenier, Auer, Engel, Van Tour and Eng all retiring from the race. Super slow-mos then of the top 3. Tommy Preining, Max Guts and the man of the moment, the victor here in race 1 of the weekend at Spa for SSR Performance after 23 laps. Victory by 0.8 of a second for Dennis Olson under intense pressure at the end. Max Guts got the Auto Hero fastest lap of the race award. He did it on the final lap of the race. He was pushing really hard to try and get that victory, but it wasn't quite to be. So Team Bernhard with a young charge. Tommy Preining, who's picked up that win at the Norris Ring. He was on fine form at the start of race 1 at the Nürburgring when he went from 10th to 4th, but then had splitter damage, dropped out of the race, but still picked up points in race 2 with the 7th. He's had a 4th place finish as well this year, and now a 2nd podium for him. But this is the best moment of his career so far. The 26-year-old from Norway, Dennis Olson. You can see the glint in his eyes, the smile beaming through the helmet visor, and he charges towards the team and they raise him aloft now. Fantastic effort by him and by the team in very difficult circumstances. Well, it's not the wet race we thought we were going to get when we looked at the forecast yesterday. The rain played its part, but largely a dry-ish race. Told you, you just can't predict the weather here at Spa. So the top 3 will bounce their way towards the podium. All of them delighted. There's Thomas Preining, a driver with a very, very bright future. He's made quite the impression, hasn't he, in the last few races in his first season of DTM, the former Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland champion. Right, championship standings. No points for Sheldon Van Der Linder today, 110 points. René Rast then moves up to 2nd on 93, 17 behind. Mirko Bortolotti scored some valuable points. He's on 93 as well. Dennis Olson is 4th on 87 after that win. Lucas Auer drops to 5th on 86. Nico Muller rounds out the top 6 in the championship after a second consecutive top 6 finish to follow on from 6th place in race 2 at the Nürburgring. So the podium ceremony is ready, and the drivers very shortly will be called up onto the podium. So we'll have the top 3, we'll have the winning team represented as well. Bring them on in reverse order then. First up, Thomas Priding about to be called up then for his second podium finish of the season. And what's only, remember, his 6th weekend as the DTM driver. Tommy Priding from Austria for Kuss Team Bernhard, 3rd place here at Spa. And then there's going to be some big smiles and I reckon big cheers momentarily, because the next driver to be called up is going to be the 2nd place finisher, the reigning champion, Max Guts, about to be brought up for Team Windward from Germany. Max Guts then. Look at the smile on his face. He never stops smiling, even when the chips are down. He'll be delighted with that. So he receives his trophy now from Prince Leopold von Bayern, who competes here in the DTM Classics. And then we have the winning team, SSR Performance. Stefan Schlund is the team owner, and it's Stefan that is going to come up to collect the team's first winning trophy in the DTM, their first season of the championship. It's football star Stefan Kuntz that's going to present the trophy to Stefan Schlund for SSR Performance. But one more trophy to give, and it, of course, is going the way of your race winner. First-time winner, Dennis Olson. Absolutely thrilled with that. Fantastic drive, thoroughly deserved. And he makes his way onto the top step of the podium. Stefan Kuntz is going to make his podium trophy presentation as well. And we have lots of new things in the DTM this weekend. A first Porsche podium, a first SSR podium, a first win for the driver, and a Norwegian winner on the top step of the DTM.
Congratulations, Dennis Olson, Maximilian Guts and Thomas Priding. Now please take the trophies, gentlemen, and get together for the pictures.
So a proud moment, the Norwegian national anthem. SSR Performance get their first pole in DTM. Porsche get their first pole. Dennis Olson gets his first pole. And then the driver and the team get their first race win. A Norwegian victory in the DTM, and the champagne is now set alight by the top 3. The rain made it edgy, but it didn't quite affect things at the front of the field the way we thought it might. It left for some very, very close racing and some very, very tense moments. I would think they're on tenterhooks down at the SSR Performance Porsche Garage, and all the friends and family that will be watching this and cheering Dennis Olson on would have been a bit stressed, I reckon, for those final few laps when Maxi Guts was coming after him big time, especially on that last lap of the race. But it was the chicane that proved his undoing a couple of times. Olson was mega quick out of that final right-left turn, and that was what gave him just enough breathing space in the end. But he kept oh so cool. Be interested to hear if he was as cool as he drove, because that was proper pressure, and he dealt with it absolutely beautifully. So well done, Dennis. Terrific drive. He's a very likeable character as well, and there'll be lots of people very happy to see him on the top step of the podium. We get some great super slow-mos from this legendary circuit. It's very photogenic here at Spa, even when the weather isn't great. It gives us some fantastic pictures. And so the 4th ever race of the DTM we've just had. Mika Häkkinen won the first one back in 2005. The second and third races in 2020, just a couple of years ago, were won by Nico Müller. And the 4th race, and the first of the GT3 era at Spa, has been won by Dennis Olson. Let's get some reaction now down in the pits with Verena.
I've now got Thomas Preining here, who started in P2 and ended up in P3. But I guess considering your move there, I mean, you had the save of the century. We all thought we're going to lose you, but you managed to somehow hold on to that car, so you've got to be pretty happy with the P3.
Yeah, to be honest, after this almost crash in lap 1, I was thinking a lot in the car. I was a bit emotional because we've lost so many race drivers there. Also from Porsche and last Antoine 3 years ago. So to be honest, I'm mainly happy I'm still here, that the car is in one piece, and obviously making up so many positions after and delivering such a cool show is the cherry on the top of the cake.
You really did an incredible job there, an incredible save. And how tough was it out there also in regards to the weather conditions? I mean, it picked up with the rain in the end. Did you think about even going in and maybe another pit stop, or what went through your mind in the last minutes?
Yeah, initially I thought about possibly pitting, but it was only in 3 corners where it was wet, and then I mean I had a big gap behind me and quite a big gap to the front as well, so I just stopped pushing because sometimes I have learned you have to be happy with what you have and not try even more and then crash or do something stupid. So like I said, I'm very happy to even be here now, not in the hospital, and also obviously getting a trophy today is very nice.
Absolutely. I just heard we saw the save again that you just had. So I think you had some, a lot of good luck there, and you did an incredible job. Thank you so much, Thomas. Looking forward, obviously, to see him tomorrow. I'm going to try to grab Maxi Guts there, who's just chilling here and speaking to his team. Maxi, well, congratulations. I mean, you came from P4 to P2. It's your first podium this year as a reigning champion. So how excited are you?
Yeah, super excited. First of all, thank you to the team. The strategy was great. The pace was good. And it's a payback for the team. They worked so hard, and they found the trust into me after last year winning champion, of course. But it was a tough start for us of the season. But in the last races, we showed the real performance we had, and I scored very good points in the last 5 races. But now I've got some big points, which is good for a championship. But in the end, happy for the team, and also on the other side, sorry for Lucky because he had a puncture. We had a great pace, both of us, and we both deserved it being on the podium, but I really enjoyed it now.
And now, I mean, we all know Spa is pretty challenging. The racetrack is the longest racetrack in the calendar, but also then with the weather. I mean, now it's really raining, and it was picking up with the rain. So what went through your head there? And how was that? How challenging? How tough was it?
I always looked up to the sky and know Spa since many, many years. I have good experience over here, and if you see some clouds coming and some drops, then could be like, how to say, not green hell, but hell of a rain, or just drizzling. And today it was just drizzling, just in the first spot here on top of the track. The rest was actually fine. So I was tried to force Olson into a mistake, but he didn't. So in the end, it was all about control it. In the end, I had a better pace maybe in the end. So maybe 2-3 more laps more could help me to catch him. But in the end, it's part of the game. And now already it's more rain. And if this happens during the race, it's already maybe time for a rain tire. So you never know. And in the end, we managed it well today. And I really enjoyed every lap out there.
And I guess it's always a big gamble here in Spa. So looking forward to tomorrow's race, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this track. I won the 24-hour race here. I finished P2 this year. So this means I like this track now, P2 and DTM, so this means a lot to me. Honestly, we have a special relation, the track and myself, and very good experience, and also memories. And it's all about having a big respect of this track. If you do a little mistake, for example, then you're off. But what happened to these guys in turn 1 after the start, like with Lucky and Preining, I mean, this is something crazy. Of course, the fans like to see it, but this was a dangerous situation.
Yeah, but luckily everything went well. So looking.
The rain starts, so I smell like I don't know, champagne bottle.
Champagne.
But now maybe it rips off. So.
Yeah, you don't need to shower anymore. All right. So here's your commentator.
Sharing off the champagne. Team standings then, Schubert Motorsport still lead on 149 points, but no points for them today. Abt Sportsline 138 in second. SSR Performance with that victory, 117 points now, closing the gap with Rosberg, Abt and the Russell Racing Team. 4th, 5th and 6th. Remember Dennis Olson as well, as it absolutely starts to lash it down outside now, the commentary box down on the pit lane. Dennis Olson won that race, carrying some success ballast because the top 3 in the previous race have ballast ballast in the next one, and he finished second in race 2 at the Nürburgring. So had to carry 15 kilograms of ballast in that race as well, which makes his result, his victory, even more impressive, doesn't it, for Dennis Olson? So Dennis Olson, Max Guts and Tommy Preining there. We heard from second and third. Hopefully we'll get to hear from your race winner very shortly. I'm sure he's inundated with interview requests at the moment, though. So I hope you've enjoyed the coverage of the race. From me, Chris Hartley, that's all for now, but let's hand back to Verena now down in the pit lane.
And now I've got the winner here, Dennis Olson. I mean, congratulations. What a phenomenal race for you. How thrilled are you?
I mean, I'm super, super happy. We've been working so hard for this the whole year, and it's been so tough in the beginning. But now, lately, since Nürburgring until now, it's been a good trend, and we definitely have got some more potential. And we are working extremely hard now, and finally getting the victory is, it feels mega good.
And quite frankly, now us getting soaking wet here in the rain, how happy are you that this did not happen just a few minutes before?
Well, Maxi was extremely quick at the end of the stint because he pitted a bit later than me, so he had a little bit of a tire advantage. But to be honest, when there was a few raindrops, I started to get worried. That's one. But number two, I saw that I managed to pull a little bit away. So at one point, I was like, okay, it's fine, but hopefully it doesn't get like this, you know, where it gets extremely wet with slick, because then it's gambling whether you will survive or not.
And now being in the DTM and now having this victory, especially in this legendary racetrack, Spa-Francorchamps, I mean, are you especially proud?
Yes, I mean, it's been a good track for me in the past, but I mean, it feels great. I'm really looking forward now to come back to the box together with the guys and celebrate with them. And then ultimately we have to prepare again for tomorrow. So hopefully we can do another win and we can celebrate again tomorrow.
All right, fingers crossed. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's it from Spa-Francorchamps for today. And as Dennis just said, we have another exciting race coming up tomorrow. Who knows what the weather will look like tomorrow? Yeah, I'm enjoying the rain, that's for sure. I'm glad it's now and not just before the end of the race. And we're really excited to see the highlights now and see you tomorrow for another spectacular race. Bye-bye.
Congrats, dude. Very good job. Very good job.